Hi there, glad to see you. In this video I am going to run through some of the new summer releases, and the first one will be Look in the Mirror by Steadman. That's my cat. My cat is coming. She's coming, the panther that she is. So the first book is Look in the Mirror by Steadman, which is a thriller. And then the second book I'm going to read is The Lost Story by Shaffer. I read another book by Shaffer at the beginning of this year, which was The Wishing Game, which was her debut novel, and I gave that one 4 stars or 4.5 stars even, I think, because I loved it. It's the kind of magic that speaks to you if you love children's books, if you love things like Roald Dahl. And I heard that this book specifically is based on the Chronicles of Narnia, which really speaks to me, so looking forward to this one too. The third book I'll be reading is a novel love story by Poston. I read another book by her too at the beginning of this year, which was 7 Year Slip, which I truly love. There is always a bit of, well, magical realism, I would say, in her books, something extra. So they are romances, but with a twist, so to speak. So looking forward to this one too. The fourth one is The Spellshop by Beth Durst. I've heard good things about it. I did hear that it is a cozy fantasy, and usually cozy fantasy isn't really totally up my alley, but I can enjoy it. I really love the Emily Wilds. Here she is. Say hi. So that is what we will be reading. See you later. The first book I read is Look in the Mirror by Steadman. This one has a dual point of view. You switch between Nina, and Nina, her father has recently died due to a terminal disease, and she got left a house which he sells, but now that she discovers that there is another house in her father's name that she inherited, and it is on the British Virgin Islands. So she goes there to have a look at what is actually happening there, because she is very surprised that she doesn't know about his house, as she thought that she really knew her father. Now, the other viewpoint is about Maria, and Maria is hired as a nanny in this luxurious villa, and she is waiting for the dad to arrive with his 2 children. Which the contract stipulated, but they don't arrive, and she gets more curious and she starts living in this house, but there is actually a room that she is not allowed to go into. I really liked the beginning of this book. It got me curious, it got me scared because of the room that Maria was not allowed to go into, and you start to wonder what that is about, and the mystery about it was actually really getting to me and got me afraid. But then you get parts of the solution and you start to figure out what it's actually all about, and that didn't really do it for me. That wasn't something that interested me or really scared me. I think reading Pretty Girls might have broken me on that expectancy scale, but it just didn't feel like it was continuing that dread that the first 50-something pages was giving to me. And then the ending was quite rushed through, I feel, and there was this last chapter twist that really totally did not land for me. So I ended up giving this book 2.5 stars because it is a quick read, reads very fast, and the beginning truly had me scared at points, but it couldn't quite finish what it started. So too bad for Look in the Mirror. So 15 years ago, 2 boys disappeared in the Red Crow Forest, and 6 months later they were found. Those boys were called Rafe and Jeremy. And now, 15 years later, there is this girl called Emily, and she is looking for her sister that disappeared 20 years ago in those same woods. By now, Jeremy has become quite famous because he finds lost girls all over the world. But to help Emily, he has to make contact again with Rafe, who he hasn't spoken to ever since they reappeared all that time ago. And that is the setup for this story. And I have to tell you, it is really a beautiful book. This is truly something that caught my imagination. Yeah, the magic is so pure. For example, you have things like burning a map, so you cannot find your way again. Things like that. It is a very sweet story, and you truly get engaged with the characters, especially the two boys, and what their lives have been like and what happens to them. And close to the ending, we have this twist, something that I did not see coming. It's not actually a twist, but I didn't see it coming, and it really got to me. It was so touching and emotional, and I do love the way that this ended. The only little critique that I have is that during the story there are a lot of things that are told to us, things that are said like, this happened in that time period, or this happened in that time period, but there is not a lot of actual action going on. I think there is only one sort of action sequence, if you can call it that, but the rest of it feels like it is told to us. However, I truly enjoyed this one. It got to me. I loved it so much. Just because of that one thing, I am going to give it a 4.5 stars, but on my Goodreads this will definitely be a 5-star. So I finished a novel love story by Ashley Poston. This book is about Eileen, and 3 years ago Eileen had a bad breakup. She was actually engaged to Liam and he broke it off just a week before the wedding. And she is still not quite over that. She feels like she is frozen. She is afraid to engage again with other people or to get into new romantic relationships. She is also part of a book club that meets once a year in a cabin to read together and to drink wine, and she's on her way to that when she gets lost and she cannot find her way again, and she ends up in this little town, and she discovers that this town is actually the town of her favorite romance novels. So there is a series of romance novels, and there are 4, and there were supposed to be 5 novels. But the author of the novels died and never finished the 5th novel. So the town appears to be stuck after the 4th novel, and the storylines were never finished. And in this town she of course meets a man, and it is a slow burn, it is a grumpy sunshine. And I thought that the idea was quite fun about getting lost actually in her favorite novel, because who wouldn't want that? Well, except maybe if your favorite novel is The Hunger Games. And I did have quite some fun seeing her fangirling over her favorite characters, actually meeting the characters in person and going to all the places that she knows out of the books. That was fun. I, however, did feel that the book was a little too long, especially at the ending. It was like there were so many endings. It started to give some Lord of the Rings vibes, not that bad. Like there's an ending and another ending and another ending. And so it was getting too long, and it didn't have to be. And then the reason that the actual story takes a bit too long is that there is this, well, sort of misunderstanding on her part. But we as the reader already know that it is a quite useless misunderstanding. We know what is, well, we figure out what is actually going on. In my head, I'm just like, come on, get on with it. Just talk about it or mention it. And then something that I have noticed in a couple of the books that I've been reading recently is that authors apparently like to reference things like Fleetwood Mac and the Gilmore Girls. And I suppose that it is to make us feel like, oh, I like the Gilmore Girls, I like Fleetwood Mac, because of course you like the Gilmore Girls and of course you like Fleetwood Mac. But it is like they really quickly want to make you feel like, oh, this book understands who I am, this book is written for me, and it's just something that I've been noticing too often lately. So please stop. Please make us like the book because of the story and because of the book. It feels like a bit of a cheap way to, catch your audience. So all in all, I did enjoy reading this book. As far as romance goes, I do like that there was a spin on it. So I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. I would have never expected this one to make me cry, but it did. The Spellshop is about Keela, and Keela works as a librarian in the capital. And one day the revolutionaries come and they overthrow the government. Because of all the things that are going on, the library is set on fire, and Keela tries to save as many books as she possibly can. She loads them in a ship and she sails away to one of the outer islands. She ends up on Caltree. Caltree is the island where she was actually born. When she was 8 or 9 years old, her parents moved with her to the capital to give her a better life, or to start a new life. But she still owns a cottage there, and that is where she sets up. Now she notices that on the island there are a lot of things that are lacking. The trees aren't really growing any more fruit. There are things wrong with the weather. The mare horses don't give fowls anymore. And she actually has all this knowledge because of the books that she brought, but the use of magic is illegal. So she starts to make and sell jam and remedies, which are actually used to hide a bit of magic to try and help the people on the island. Now, Keela is a person that is quite introverted. She likes to be on her own. So starting a shop is something that does not come natural to her. And meeting new people, befriending new people, starting a found family, so to speak. It is a challenge for her, but we are very much along for the ride. Now, to be fair, I wasn't really into this book at the beginning, because in the first chapter, when the things go down in the capital, you don't really know Keela yet and her spider plant, which is called Cass. And things actually move too quickly there, so you aren't really invested, while it is supposed to be this very intense scene, which rattles her quite a lot for the rest of the book. So I wasn't really into that yet. And then the rest of the book is quite slow. Everything is taken step by step, how she is building the shop, how she's making the jam, how she is figuring out how to use the magic and things like that. But the book slowly sucked me in, I'd say. I started to really care about the characters. I thought it was so fun, and in my head I was starting to see this animated movie. It's almost like I would say Luca from Pixar, because of the island setting and because there is a lot of sea involved. I could see these fantasy characters, I could see these creatures, and it made it a lot of fun. I truly had a lot of fun reading this book. It got to me the scenes that were intended to get to you and the scenes that were intended to feel like, oh, it's so cute. It worked, it really worked. So hats off to Sarah Beth Durst. I know that I said that cozy fantasy isn't truly my thing, but I really, really enjoyed this one. And I am going to give this one an outright 5 stars, just because it was everything I wanted and more. So the results of this video, so to speak, are that in last place I have Look in the Mirror, which did not bring to the table what I wanted it to, although at the beginning I would have suspected this one to come first. Next we have A Novel Love Story. I think you would enjoy this one if you are into romance, but it is probably not the best romance that you have ever read. Then we have The Lost Story, which I would definitely recommend. I just think that I wanted this one to be just a bit more than what it actually delivers. And then top of the bill for me is The Spellshop, which I did not see coming. I would actually have guessed this would be my least favorite one. Always in for a surprise. Alright, that's it for me. If you like this video or if you like me, please like, subscribe, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!